So we just watched The Last of Us episode 2.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think this is the best episode yet. I think
2 episodes is the best.
Yeah.
Okay. But I do think it's a really, really good episode. So it's definitely number 1, even though it's number 2.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is, like, for people who haven't played the game, who are watching these videos, let us know in the comments, is it annoying to be like, oh, okay, we get it, it's similar to the game, or do you want to know these things? I think I would want to know these things, but I play video games. But at the same time, you know...
That's what makes it so exciting, because you have a backstory from the game.
Exactly. So I think with this episode, they kept the theme going of introducing new things, and that they're going more in depth. I love that we got to see how the outbreak started.
Yeah, I love the fact that they brought in the beginning part, starting in Indonesia, and and the doctor, they're bringing her back. They're like, okay, ma'am, we need you for the vaccine. And she's like, no, there is no vaccine. Also, it sets up how important for me Ellie is, because it's not in the game, but it gives you some type of like energy and really revs up the show, because now you understand that's why we have to smuggle her. That's why she is the package.
Which leads me to my next point about the show, is that I think having the executive producer from Chernobyl, it's kind of a perfect marriage, because you got Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of the Last of Us series, and it's a video game, so it is more out there. So you have but it's a video game, so you accept a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody who just came off of doing a series about a real nuclear disaster, which was a real event that could have ended humanity, or at least ended humanity in Europe. And the way they portrayed that and made you feel like you were there and feel the just how weighty that situation was, and make you understand that this is a real life, like, save the world situation.
Right.
I think having those two people come together for this, it's perfect, because you've got the clickers with their heads split open and all the fungus and stuff.
I was really excited to see how they were going to portray that, because it could come off almost like it belongs in a video game. You really can't capture it in real life. But I love how it looks actually like fungus. You can tell that they put their time on it. And it looks like the fungus itself has now fully, kind of formed itself in the human body, because the eyes are gone, the nose is gone. It's literally just,
How strong they are. It makes sense, because, they ground the fact that these zombies, infected, whatever you want to call them, as time goes on, they become more resilient. So, like, by the point you're a clicker, quote unquote, which I actually don't know if they're going to call them clickers in the show, because they haven't called them a clicker yet.
Not yet.
That's what they're calling the game. But in the flashback to how it first started, they have the myceliologist who studies fungus come in, and she, like, cuts open someone's bite wound, and you can see how underneath it just looks like, I don't know if you've ever seen moldy bread and the fungus starts to grow.
It does.
And it causes the bread to get tough.
Yeah.
It explains why humans, once they're infected, are tougher. It's like another layer of protection underneath your skin, because essentially underneath the people's skin is just mushroom tendrils.
And they also kept that from the game, because in the game you literally had to keep shooting them.
Yeah.
Because it really does make sense as to why it would take so much time
Yeah.
to really knock them down. And I really love how they talk about the sensitivity and the connectivity of the fungus, how they showed, well, I don't want to give too much away, but they showed that they can communicate over distance. So now that if you touch on one thing a mile away, that fungus, if it's close by, can hear you and then send, I guess, defense in a way for itself. So it shows you how live the fungus is. It's just bizarre to see in real life versus a video game.
In the game, the infection can spread through spores.
That you can see.
We watched the behind the scenes, and they talked about how when you're bringing this to reality, it's kind of hard to sell that, like, you can get turned into one of these things through spores.
Yeah, because they said the spores will move so rapidly and they will be everywhere. So to make it so vivid, so you can actually see a spore in real life, won't be realistic. We can't really see most things like that in real world, so that makes sense.
Yeah, and that was actually something you said when we sat down to watch the game. Later, after the spores come, it was like, well, why aren't they wearing a mask? Just in general, when they go around the zombies, because don't mushrooms always give off spores? That's kind of what they do.
Yeah.
And I just had to be like, look, it's a video game, babe. Like, that's just, it's just gameplay. Like, they just replaced it with a different danger.
Yeah.
And so instead of spores being a way that you can get infected, it can communicate across long distance.
Yeah.
And so you can step on a piece of the fungus here, and then a mile away, but a horde of infected come to you.
When you're dealing with something that is in reality, that's still in today's time, that fungus exists, I think it adds a different type of fear. That's why this game is such a great thing to turn into a show, especially after what we experienced in the past few years, because it shows you that sometimes the most scariest threat is the thing that you really don't comprehend, like fungus,
now we're post-pandemic.
Right.
You know, the game came out 10 years ago. So the idea of a pandemic period to us just seemed like fiction. You know, and now that we've been through one, a pandemic, it seems very real. It's just what are the parameters of it?
Right.
They're saying now with global warming that they're going to become more and more common. So that's why you have the Ebola outbreak. That's why you've had swine flu. The health organizations went in and dealt with those situations before they could become COVID.
Exactly. It's kind of like Chernobyl. That's go back to Taiwan as well. That's great that he has worked on this.
The only thing keeping fungus from infecting humans is the fact that fungus can't really survive above temperatures of like 96, 95 degrees. So it's literally 2-degree difference that keeps us from, you know, the mold on your bread getting inside of you and growing in your body. Fungus, you know, everything adapts.
Started living in hotter weather.
Hotter and higher climates. So if fungus adapts, even just to be able to live 2 degrees hotter, boom.
Yeah.
Last of Us could literally be real life. Now, I don't know if that is intentional or if it isn't, but that seems to be
It definitely sparks the conversation. One thing I love about this show is when you're dealing with something with that much stakes, I feel like the set design and everything about it really makes you feel like this is like really happening. Like it just looks so vivid. It looks so much detail oriented. So it was just really good to see. It's a beautiful episode. Oh, Tess, what did you think about her in this show?
Anna Torv plays Tess, and she was in Fringe and Mindhunter, and she's like one of my favorite actresses.
The actress was amazing. You don't really know much about her in the first episode. It's not really about her, period. But in the moment where she discovered that Ellie might be the cure, you could see her fighting for, well, maybe everything up until this moment could have been worth it. Like maybe if I met this girl in this time in my life, everything up to this moment had to have some sense. That's how she can feel in that moment, especially in the end, you know. I feel like that really, for her, it felt like at least something was, I got something good out of it at the end.
We got to see more of Bella Ramsey playing Ellie.
Especially in the moments where she's being a child, right? She's only 14. So you have moments where she's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're only 14, you know, you're so young. And you might be the cure. Oh, that's a lot. You know, you just start to think differently.
Out of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
This episode.
It's
a solid 8 for me.
I give it like an 8.5. I want to leave room for...
Yeah, I haven't seen enough to give it higher than that.
Yeah, I think that wraps up our review of the second episode of The Last of Us. If you like this, please watch our other videos. We have our own infected zombie. They're not called zombies in ours, but just wait. The next episodes and stuff will show you what they're called.
Yep.
Hopefully y'all enjoy that. If you like The Last of Us, you'll probably like that. I'm not naive. Most people don't make it to the end. So if you made it this far, come on, go ahead. You like the video.
I mean,
leave a
literally like it if you like the video.
You obviously like it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And subscribe.
All right. Bye.
Bye.